Have you ever wondered if people who are really successful with money are just smarter? Do you need to be some kind of financial genius to really, build wealth?
Yeah, it's a common thought, and it really gets at the heart of what drives financial outcomes.
So I've been reading this book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and it's really fascinating. It basically argues that when it comes to finances, it's less about raw intelligence and more about how we behave with money. What we do matters more than just what we know.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really refreshing perspective. We often treat finance like it's just a math problem, but Housel really gets into the psychology, the emotions, the human side of money.
And that's exactly what we're going to be diving into today. We're going to pull out some key insights from this book to help you understand your own relationship with money. Think of it as a cheat sheet for understanding how to navigate the world of money.
Yeah, our goal is to distill the practical wisdom, the stuff you can actually use to make better financial decisions. We'll be talking about things like how our behavior shapes our financial destiny, the magic of compounding, the roles of risk and patience, how our emotions can mess things up, the difference between being rich and being wealthy, and why personal finance is, well, personal.
Okay, let's jump in. One of the things that really hit me was this idea that behavior often trumps intelligence when it comes to money.
That's one of the big takeaways from the book. It's easy to think that you need to be like a Wall Street whiz to be good with money. But Housel points out that even super smart people can make terrible financial decisions if they let their emotions get in the way.
Yeah, you could have a PhD in economics and still lose a ton of money if you panic and sell all your stocks when the market dips. But someone who's just really disciplined and consistent, even without a fancy degree, could end up doing much better in the long run.
Exactly. It's about having that emotional control, sticking to your plan, even when things get tough. And that's something anyone can learn. The book really emphasizes that mastering your inner world, your emotions and impulses, is the key to making good financial choices.
Which is good news for everyone listening, right? Understanding these behavioral patterns is like having a secret weapon. It's not about outsmarting the market. It's about understanding yourself.
Right. Another point Housel makes is that our personal experiences with money, like our past, really shape how we view the financial world.
This part was so interesting. He says, and I'm quoting here, your personal experiences with money make up maybe 0.00000000001% of what's happened in the world, but maybe 80% of how you think the world works.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff.
It really is. Think about it. Someone who grew up during a time of economic boom might be super optimistic about investing, while someone who lived through a recession might be much more cautious.
Yeah, the book gives this example of people who came of age in the 1950s versus those who came of age in the 1970s. Their experiences with the stock market were totally different, so they have completely different ideas about how it works.
And neither one is necessarily right or wrong. They're just coming at it from different perspectives based on what they've lived through.
Yeah.
And that's something we all need to be aware of, right? What kind of baggage are we bringing to our financial decisions based on our past experiences?
Totally. Once you recognize that, you can start to see things more objectively. Now, what about the things we can't control? The book talks a lot about luck and risk.
That's another important piece of the puzzle. We like to think that success is all about hard work and talent, and that failure is just a sign of incompetence. But Housel reminds us that luck and risk will play a huge role in how things turn out.
Like the Bill Gates example. He's obviously a brilliant guy, but he also got incredibly lucky by having access to a computer in high school back in the 60s, when almost nobody did. That chance encounter shaped his whole trajectory. Sometimes it's more about being in the right place at the right time than being a genius.
Recognizing the role of luck keeps us humble, and recognizing the role of risk helps us have compassion for others who might be struggling. Because extreme outcomes, whether they're good or bad, often come down to low probability events.
So instead of getting caught up in those outlier stories, those rare occurrences, it's better to focus on the broader trends and probabilities. That's important for anyone who wants to get a good understanding of how things work without getting lost in the exceptions.
Absolutely. Focus on the patterns, not the anomalies. It helps you manage your expectations and make more informed decisions.
That makes sense. Now, this leads to another point that resonated with me. Knowing when enough is enough. So many people just get stuck in this constant chase for more, more, more.
Yeah, the endless pursuit of more can be dangerous. History is full of examples of people who had it all but ruined everything because they just couldn't stop wanting more. That kind of greed often leads to taking crazy risks that end badly.
It's like the finish line keeps moving further and further away no matter how much you achieve, and you end up risking everything you've already gained.
Investing isn't about getting the absolute highest returns possible. It's about getting consistently good returns over a long period of time. That's where the power of compounding comes in.
Oh yeah, compounding. It's often called the eighth wonder of the world, and for good reason. But the book also talks about how staying wealthy is different from getting wealth.
That's a critical point. Getting rich might involve taking big risks.
Yeah.
But staying wealthy requires a different approach. It's about being frugal, being aware of potential losses, and protecting what you've built. It's about survival.
So while we all want to know the secret to getting rich, maybe we should be paying more attention to how to stay rich. And that means not chasing the highest returns, but avoiding big losses and letting compounding work its magic over time.
Right. Slow and steady wins the race when it comes to building lasting wealth. And another thing that plays a surprisingly big role is saving.
Oh yeah, savings. The book argues that your savings rate is often even more important than your income or your investment returns. That was a big takeaway for me.
It's true. You see three types of people. Those who save, those who think they can't save because they don't make enough, and those who think they don't need to save. But guess who ends up with the most wealth? The savers. Every time.
It seems counterintuitive, right? Someone making a ton of money but spending it all isn't really building wealth. But someone with a modest income who consistently saves can end up in a much stronger financial position.
Housel has this great line. Your savings rate is the gap between your ego and your income. The less you need to impress people with your spending, the more you can save. It's about delaying gratification and investing in your future.
And it's not just about saving any old way. The book talks about having a financial plan that's tailored to you, to your own goals and circumstances. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Absolutely. You need a plan that fits your risk tolerance, your time horizon, your life goals. And one of the things to consider in any plan is having a margin of safety.
What does that mean, leaving room for error?
It means being prepared for the unexpected. Investing is all about probabilities, not certainties. Even the best investments can go south sometimes. So you need to have some cushion built in. That could mean diversifying your investments, not putting all your eggs in one basket. And it definitely means having an emergency fund for unexpected expenses.
So it's like having a little extra fuel in your tank just in case you hit some unexpected detours on your financial journey.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about a lot of external factors, but the book keeps coming back to this idea that the biggest obstacles to financial success are often internal. Our own behavior can really trip us up.
Our own minds are the enemy sometimes. The book talks about these psychological biases we all have, like holding on to losing investments for too long or selling winning investments too early.
Yet we tend to react emotionally to market swings, which can lead to bad decisions. That's where things like balanced advantage mutual funds can be helpful. They use a predetermined strategy to shift between different types of assets based on market conditions.
So it's kind of like automating your investment decisions.
In a way, yes. It takes some of the emotion out of it. They typically increase equity exposure when the market is up and decrease it when the market is down. It helps you avoid making impulsive moves based on fear or greed.
That could be helpful for a lot of people. Another thing people often say is they don't earn enough to invest. But the book talks about systematic investment plans, or SIPs, as a way to get started even with small amounts.
Yeah, SIPs are a great way to start investing regularly, even if you can only put in a small amount each month. They allow you to invest a fixed sum in a mutual fund at regular intervals. You can start with very little, sometimes as low as 500 rupees.
So even if you don't have a lot of money right now, you can still get started and benefit from compounding over time.
Exactly. It's about developing that habit of saving and investing, no matter where you're starting from. And you get the benefit of rupee cost averaging, where you buy more units when prices are low and fewer units when prices are high, which can smooth out your returns over time.
Now, before we wrap up, I think it's worth talking about the difference between being rich and being wealthy. It's not just about having a lot of money, right?
That's something the book touches on throughout. Being rich is often about showing off, having fancy things, but being wealthy is more about having financial security and peace of mind. It's about having options and not being tied to a paycheck.
So it's less about what you can buy and more about having control over your life and your time. It's about building a solid foundation that can weather any storm.
Exactly. It's about having the freedom to make choices that align with your values and your goals. And ultimately, the book reminds us that personal finance is, well, personal.
There's no one right way to do it.
What works for one person might not work for another. Your financial decisions should be guided by your own unique circumstances, your goals, and your values.
So the key takeaway here isn't about becoming a financial expert overnight. It's about understanding the psychology of money, your own biases, and making intentional choices that align with your long-term well-being.
It's about cultivating self-awareness, practicing patience, being disciplined, and remembering that your financial journey is your own. There's no need to compare yourself to others.
This has been a really fascinating deep dive into Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money. If you're ready to take action, think about this. What's one small change you can make in your financial habits today, knowing that your behavior matters more than anything else? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.